Hello and welcome to the Destinus booth. The French, well, almost French, company I've talked about for years. Before the war in Ukraine, I had interviewed their specialist. They were developing a project that seemed futuristic. Hydrogen-powered hypersonic propulsion for international logistics. But in the meantime, the war in Ukraine happened. They stopped being Swiss, which allowed them to work over there. They became quite French in the meantime. They opened several offices, and above all, they are truly operational, deployed in the field with hundreds of highly positive field reports. At the war's start, Destinus quickly shifted to other projects, like the Lorde. The Lorde is a long-range, remotely operated munition, so it's a kind of low-cost missile that was first used by the Da Vinci Wolves of the SBU. So it uses a relatively simple engine, a piston engine. The aim is to carry 40 kilograms of payload for 700 kilometers. Except that today, well, the war has evolved. The Russians have electronic warfare. So this simple system continues to be produced and used in Africa, maybe in Saudi Arabia, in India, etc. It's a relatively simple system to potentially exhaust the enemy's ammunition, and then have a system that can still get through to fixed targets. And so from that moment on, they switched to a version developed specifically for Ukraine, which is even much more efficient, and it's called the Ruta. The Ruta. In Block 1, the goal is to carry 125 kilograms of payload over 250 kilometers at Mach 0.7. So, it's a propulsion system that is extremely fast. And what's interesting is that from start to finish, navigation is done entirely visually, optically. You don't need GPS, you don't need inertial navigation systems that lose accuracy. It will recognize waypoints on the ground. And in this way, it can navigate from its starting point to its target without being jammed in any way. And despite these capabilities, it's still low cost. It's produced in Spain and the Netherlands, and it's widely used in Ukraine. And the one you see above me is the Block 2, 250 kilos at a range of 700 kilometers, with the same performance trajectory on BC. It will adapt, it will avoid enemy threats, it can go around, it can make turns, and so on. You see, we're really talking about cruise missiles that are launched from the ground, containerized, things that are very effective. There is now a Block 3 that is in development, even heavier, and get this, the goal is to be able to fire out to 2,000 kilometers. But that's not all. There are also airdropped versions, and I'm telling you, airdropped, meaning it's not carried under a fighter jet. This one, we're going to put it in containers, and these containers, for example, go in the back of an A400M. That way you have dozens and dozens of these munitions, these cruise missiles. Once again, extremely affordable compared to everything we usually have. And like that, the A400M will drop the container directly when it's under the parachute. These munitions will go off one by one, each targeting a different target, potentially operating as a swarm to strike various targets. And of course, when you're present in Ukraine, you're also interested in defense. So this is the Hornet family in general. For over 2 years, Destinus has intercepted Shahed drones on site using various interceptors. The first version was fairly lightweight. 100% electric propulsion, we can go up to 40 kilometers away with a payload of 1 to 1.2 kilograms. And an explosion near our target. And when we're close, just a few dozen centimeters or 1 or 2 meters away, the explosion is something special. There are hundreds of small steel balls that will shoot out like this toward the target, and they can disintegrate the Shahed from a distance. And the one behind me? Well, that's the new version. What's interesting here is that there are also retractable wings, which means it will be containerized and we can launch it in salvos if necessary, assigning each drone a different target. It will be able to carry a 3-kilogram payload out to 70 kilometers, and it goes at 400 kilometers per hour as well. What's nice is that there's also a naval version now being developed, so it can be directly integrated into ships for their protection. Land-based systems have lots of space, but on a ship, it's more complex with different conditions, salinity, and many things to validate. And then, Destinus, a French company, as I mentioned, has an international presence, a lot of sales abroad, and is very, very invested and very, very present in Ukraine. They've invested, they've put in the effort, and as a result, they've proven that their system is effective. So they have sales, and they export internationally. So it's really a gem that's super interesting, and you should keep an eye on them. We've been following them for more than 5 years now on the channel. But what's interesting is that they also make all the subcomponents. So they're also involved in everything related to propulsion, engines, including explosives. They have partnerships everywhere. Artificial intelligence is developed in-house. As for navigation, it's because they acquired a company that made optical navigation systems for helicopters. And strategically, they have an advantage. Because you should know that in 2023, they produced almost 4,000 drones over the year. They were the biggest drone producers in Europe. But they don't make any noise, they're very discreet, and they've completely left the drone market because they believe much more in missiles. Drones take too long, they're intercepted too often, they're too easy to detect, they get jammed, and so on. Whereas with missiles, obviously, now you have to be able to produce them in large quantities, at scale, to get low-cost missiles, a bit like what we see in Ukraine, because once again, the CEO is Ukrainian. So they really have an ecosystem they're building around themselves. It's a company with a future, ladies and gentlemen. That's Destinus. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you very soon.